said, and that's a fact. Whatever Dinglefutz there went on about switches and bunches and insulators, I have no clue what he's talking about.
I know you don't. So Greg, the length of that wire underneath there probably doesn't make any difference either. As long as there's any length of wire, it's still going to couple to it, and it's going to act like a reflector. Therefore, if you put up a Yagi antenna, you can ignore the physical properties of a reflector and a director.
Well, he's saying that because Greg's impression of this arrangement is that he has a two-element beam.
That's correct. That's what he's been saying all along.
Yeah, but all he's effectively doing with that under radiator thing is he's just effectively bringing his antenna closer to ground. And why not just go up and take the antenna from 54 feet, bring it down to 10 feet or 20 feet? That's basically what you're doing anyway.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I don't care what you think. That's what you're doing.
Well, this is what I'm proving, whichever way. And what I believe I'm doing is I have a two-element beam right now, and I'm actually decoupling myself further from ground, my feed point anyway. And the reason why, if I would use a director, I would have higher gain, but I would have a worse front-to-back ratio, and I would have a better lobe. But so I used a reflector to give me a better front-to-back ratio, so I wouldn't see the Earth as much. I think that's the theory. Then it's at a 42-foot length to give me a point, blah, blah, blah. So I got 5.1 dB gain. And anyway, so I'm going to go from the center, instead of breaking it into two quarter waves, go out about 20-some feet and cut it and bring either one of those two wires away from being a reflector or a director, and hopefully they'll act as rain gutters and not do what it's going to shift my angle, because I'm not going to get all that gain, and hopefully my dipole will be more like a dipole at 84 feet, and so my angle switch on reflector boom, it should go up more and hit Idaho 10 dB higher, and then switch off, the lobe should shift and roll, over to 40 degrees above the horizon or something like that, like a dipole is supposed to do it. Wait a minute, I'm not even a quarter wavelength, but almost. So basically it's just a lobe up anyway. K7ZAR.
Okay, Greg, what happens if you put your dipole 10 feet above ground?
If I put my dipole 10 feet above ground, I get a lot of earth coupling, I get a lot of capacitance, the antenna resonates at a lower frequency, and it's really nasty, over.
Yeah, but what does your signal do?
My signal? Straight up. I would not draw current. See, there's a field going around it, going from one side.
Turns into a damn rocket, Greg. It goes straight up, bro.
Close to the Earth would try to draw current, magnetic current through that Earth, and it's got resistance in it. It's not very good. Now, if it was salt water, it would skim across the top of it and still draw a lot of current to the other pole. But I'm not going to draw as much current. I don't think I'm going to draw as much RF current in my antenna. And over.
That's not what he asked, Greg.
Whoa. A short answer here. If your dipole was 10 feet off the ground, you'd be like straight up, straight down.
Yep.
Okay, what happens when you put that dipole up at a quarter wavelength above ground? Now you lower the angle of radiation. What happens if you put it a half wave above ground? Now you lower the angle of radiation even further. So, if you take yours at 50 feet and you slide that wire underneath, you're doing the same thing as taking that antenna from 50 feet down to probably about 20 feet. All you're doing is making the same thing. You're making it a Nevis antenna. You're making it go straight up and straight down, and you already proved that. So, in essence, putting that wire under that antenna is doing the same thing as if you went out and lowered it from 50 feet to 10 feet above ground.
Except for the amount of loss in earth coupling. I am reducing the earth coupling. And so, and there's a really important thing here. If you look at your desk, the desk you're sitting in front of, and look at the top, the one closest to the wall, the line at the end of the desk. Now, if my antenna for my power to come all the way up there to that 0 dB level, I'll have to be a minimum of a quarter wavelength. I believe that's right. An eighth wavelength is just going to give me a circle of power about half that way. And the reason is because of the earth loss. You know, if you get over
to spend a little time
beautiful
with the
mesh or
modeling
something,
programs.
I don't really know. But anyway, that's what the drawing says. Over.
Greg, you need to sit down and spend a little time with some modeling programs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. This guy's talking full waves. We're talking quarter wave and below.
You know, Greg, if you got the current version of the antenna handbook, you would get free antenna modeling software with it, bro. It's about $49.
Okay, so, you know, somebody told me, they said, if you take a 20 meter beam, a 3-element 20 meter beam, and if you take it and put it up against the side of your house and put the reflector on the ground, that you can pretty much almost tune that antenna and then put it up in the air. That because of that reflector, it and if they're tuned and everything, the RF wants to see that reflector, so it is, you know, not as much as the Earth, and you know that you know, you got a front to back ratio. So what everybody out here is saying by statements is saying
It's like a dog
that,
chasing his tail.
you don't have a front to back ratio.
Yeah, and I noticed we got a phone card out here.
If you put the reflector real close to the Earth,
this way once he convinces himself or something.
See, it's still looking up, you know, not on the horizon, but looking up to the driven element. So that driven element is still seeing that reflector, and I really think that it's reducing Earth loss and giving me effective, compared to not effective power gain. Well, it is giving me effective power gain. Anyway, I guess I could be wrong on this thing about a 2-element beam, K7ZAR.
Well, Greg, let me see if I have it here. I do want to say one thing. Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. You know, there's my response to the comment about the beam and the side of the house, you know, there's a little truth to that, but I think what we're implying is that is the least compromised position for a Yagi if you want to try and tune it down at ground level, okay? It's the very best way. It's much better than having the Yagi be parallel to ground or to Earth. It's the most isolated position. But for you to try and extrapolate gain in your environment, in your arrangement, simply because they used that statement to describe the very best positioning of a Yagi for tuning it at ground level so that when you raise it back up, your frequency is, you know, not way, way, way off. That's what the point of that statement was, Greg. And so try not to say, oh, okay, well, that was an antenna that had gain. Therefore, if I mimic part of that, I will have gain. That's the part that I've always had a little problem with your thing, because it's throwing off your thinking big time, bro. But so there, that's the only thing I can say. But Greg, the bottom line here is this hobby is designed to have fun and to experiment and to see what we can learn, and that's certainly what you're doing.
Hey, let me add something to that. Just take any 20 meter beam, 3, 4, 5 element, doesn't matter. Just tune it 150 to 200 kilohertz higher than your target frequency, because when you raise it, you know, if you tuned it like 5 feet off the ground, because then when you put it up at 55 feet above ground, up on your tower, it's going to drop 150 to 200 kilohertz. Everybody knows, well, I thought everybody knew that. You can damn near pinpoint it to the exact frequency you want after you put up 1 or 2 beams.
Right, yeah, this is pointed straight up.
Unless you buy a stepper.
Side of the house. They
No, this ain't pointed
flat on the ground. But
what are you
yeah,
talking about, pointing it straight
I hear
up?
what you're saying, because it definitely, you know, my dipole, when I raise,
I don't think he's ever put together a beam.
of course, they shift.
Well, pointing it straight up does help with that problem, Frank. I've measured, I've seen it.
All right,
Okay,
guys,
it's
I'm gonna
only
get
going
out of
to
here.
shift
Y'all have a
between
fine evening,
150
and I'll see you
and
again
200
on
kilohertz.
KT6BOE.
It's too simple. You don't have to stand it up, point it up, back it up to a house.
Good night, Gary.
Just tune the thing on your test stand about 5 feet off the ground. Tune it about 150 to 200 high, so that when you put it up, because it's going to drop, and you'll be damn near right on the frequency you want. Real close.
Oh, I'm sure that technique works really well. I'm sure of that.
Well, I've probably put up, I don't know, at least 10, maybe 15, 10 meter, 15, 20, 40s, and they all do just about the same thing. It's not real difficult. We can dang near pinpoint the frequency exact. We did the one on my Force 12, the 40 meter. John came over, we went 150 kilohertz high, and we put it up in the air, and it landed perfect, right on 7255, and that was my target frequency.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all. I'm sure that works really good, you know, and if you do it a few times, you can probably, like you say, nail it. My experience was when we were down at the lab and we go out on the field, on the test range, our concern was about things like antenna pattern, distortion to the pattern, front to back, all these other relationships that a Yagi has. And so if we wanted to do testing down at ground level, the best way we could was with it looking at heaven. Any other attitude of that antenna compromised its performance. That's my only position on this whole thing, Frank. You know, I'm sure that other technique works really good if your only concern is frequency.
Yeah, well, just try doing that with a 60-foot boom, though. Try doing that with a 40-meter beam or a 4-element long or wide-spaced 20-meter beam. Yeah, that might be great for a 2-meter beam or a 6-meter beam or maybe even a 10-meter beam, but yeah, you start getting into that big stuff, and you try pointing one up straight up. Oh, that's not easy.
Well, we were on a test range, so we had there were towers. There was all kinds of Dacron lines way up there, and we would just pick up the tip of the beam, the director end of the boom, excuse me, and lift it straight up. You know, it was real simple.
Oh, well, you suck. Yeah, you did say a test range. Okay, well, I'm talking about the average guy in his backyard. You know, he's not going to point his beam up. I am. But, you know, he'll have enough room to, you know, where the old swimming pool used to be, the above-ground swimming pool used to be.
Don't have a light.
Got it on an old test stand from a crank-open umbrella from a picnic table, you know. So he's got his beam mounted there 5 feet off the ground. And they always, I hear it over and over, I laugh, you know, they tune it up at 5 feet, and then when they put it up in the air, oh, how come my frequency shifted? Well, yeah.
I know. Yeah, I do suck in that regard, but I don't have access to that crap anymore, so I don't suck anymore. Oh, you always have an RPS.
And I do have that beam, and it's sitting right here, and it's pointed up, and hopefully it has minimum earth coupling with that reflector, and that was my whole idea, darn it. And you know, and I hope the thing won't see it when I open the wire, but I'm gonna find out. And darn it, K7ZAR.
Well, it will actually see anything around. If you had a metal building, a metal shed, a metal roof, a pole, a flagpole, other antennas, believe me, it all has an effect. But some very minor, some not noticeable, some extremely noticeable. I used to have a little difficulty when I had the 160-meter loop up and the 160-meter inverted V. And I had to orientate the inverted V a specific way because the loop was killing it. It was coupling. And all I had to do was just move it slightly, and that took care of the problem. But, yeah, anyway, trust me, what you're doing, sliding that wire under there, would be the exact same effect in every way. If you took your dipole from 50 feet and brought it down to 20 feet, you would do exactly the same thing.
Give it a few minutes. It'll be on the ground anyway.
But I'm hoping that I am not. Yeah, that's exactly right. But hopefully I am not losing power due to the earth coupling. And that's what I'm trying to eliminate, is that loss.
What do you think you're losing?
according to the power circle of
Power circle?
ARRL catalog here, they have a 0 dB reference line, and
I don't know.
at an 8
This-
wave,
I don't know, but it blows my
they have
mind.
a circle that's emanating around like that from the bottom of the page, and it's only going about a third of the way up. And then they said when you get the antenna a quarter wave up, that it's a big fat circle, and it goes all the way up and touches 0. And then
But do you notice everything that he refers to is they said, this guy told me, he needs to do his own research.
No. When you get to a half wave now, what happens is
Oh, his own study.
starts to get a little smaller in the middle, and it starts
hard way.
developing 2 lobes. Fat lobes going a little bit to
I
the
know.
left, a little bit to the right, just right at the quarter wave level. And so, no, that was half wave. That was a half wave. You get a big fat bubble up to 0 at a quarter wave. So if you're less than a quarter wave, that 0
Well, that's why I say, if he did his own study, then he'd understand all the connections.
And the only thing that could be doing that and not pushing it straight up, it is still going up though, but it would be the loss through the earth, over.
But that's going to be so, I want to say minuscule, but I'll even say unimportant. It's just unimportant. You're worrying about something that's absolutely unimportant.
Well, except power level, it would be like, now what page? Well, anyway, I got those circles.
Power level?
And it's really cool.
That's why when your antenna fell over, you just about had a bigger signal or the same signal as you did when it was 50 feet in the air. Greg, unless you're going to put a 75-meter antenna 120 feet or 130 feet in the air, going from 20 to 50 is like almost no difference, period, none, zilch. You might get a degree you might lower your angle of takeoff by a degree if you're lucky. Nothing starts to happen until you get to a half wavelength, and most people can't get a 75 up that high unless you put it up like an inverted V. When I had mine up at 75 feet to the apex, could just barely start to detect a difference.
Yeah, it looks like at an 8 wavelength, you got a lobe.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and it's down 2 dB. And it's down 2 dB. At a quarter wavelength, your lobe comes up to 0 dB level. And
This chart I read is a teenager seemed to confirm that's what Mike said, at a halfway point your main lobe is about 30 degree angle.
we're not talking about up to, we're talking up to the main lobe here from quarter wavelength, which is 66 feet down to ground level, because that's where we are. And that's correct. If I go over here to a horizontal antenna half wavelength above ground, you got 2 lobes. The main point is at 30 degrees off the horizon with nothing going straight up. That's at a half wavelength. For us, that's 120 some feet. But from a quarter wavelength, 66 feet down to 0, they say at an 8th wavelength, which would be like 32 feet, you're down 2 dB, down 2 dB in power from what you would be if you were a quarter wavelength. And that's right according to the ARRL antenna handbook here. But now, where would that power be? Why would that power be down? Why? Well, I guess if I read here, it's probably going to come because of the earth loss, over.
No, it's because it's gone off in a different direction. You got to remember, gain is nothing other. Everybody misinterprets gain. Gain is nothing more than directivity. Direction. Look at gain.
Absolutely.
Direction. Everybody thinks of gain as like getting something for nothing. All you're doing is taking what you have and
Focusing it.
in the direction you want it to go. That's the whole reason for a beam. It doesn't, like, people get this false idea that, like, oh, if I send 10 watts up, I get 100 out. Yeah, gain is nothing more than direct.